the sense organs, the eyes and the ears, may be working perfectly well. It's not, the problem is not in the sense organs themselves, but it's on the way to the processing part of the brain where the trouble arises. And
so it's not a sensory impairment in any way, it's a sensory processing issue.
Well, a person may have, with autism, of course,
As
may
well,
have an impairment as well, but it's a sensory processing issue. And the problem is that people will look at the eyes, and quite recently there was some research which said, well, there's nothing wrong with the eyes of these people, so, this can't be an issue. And we're not saying there is, it's the problem is on the way to the brain. And, for example, with the eyes and the ears, there are certain cells which are in deficit in about 40% of people with autism. And that means that the signals from the eyes and the ears to the processing bit are getting mixed up on the way before they ever get to the processing bit, so that people will say things like, I can see better, I can hear better when I've got my glasses, my coloured lenses on. The processing is like a jar. It's not just, this is processing of the eyes, this is processing of the stuff that comes in with the eyes, this is processing of stuff which comes in the ears, but it's almost everything, plus lots and lots of people in the room, and people moving about and different colours and shapes and so forth. It all adds to confusion.
Okay, and it adds to the sensory overload. The way you're describing that just sounds as total overload. So
in order to get out of that, what happens is that people will focus on a particular thing, like flipping their hands or scratching their hands or opening and shutting the doors or tearing up paper or...
So what you're describing is sensory experiences that are totally predictable. When I'm tearing that paper, not only do I hear it, I see it, I feel it. Yeah. There's almost a sort of a vibration in the tear. Right. So I'm having a totally predictable sensory experience, which puts me back slightly in control of this totally confusing overload.
Well, if I fasten on that, they will say, actually, I don't have to listen to the world around me. Yeah. If I switch the light on and off, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm quoting now. Yes. And it's exactly the same every time until the light bulb blares. And then there's chaos. But they really do need something to focus. And we call these, or rather they invented the names, STIMs, self-stimulation, repetitive behaviours. And the main point about that is, do not stop them if they are stimming, because if you do that, you will remove the protection, the shield that they've built up against the sensory overload, so they are more likely to tip into the autonomic storm.
I think traditionally there's been quite a lot of judgment about stimulatory behaviours. It's been seen as self-stimulating and therefore something that we should encourage. Should discourage. But actually what we need to be looking at is that this behaviour is life-saving. This is what gives me my sense of certainty. It gives me my sense of control. And if I'm just simply to stop somebody doing it, I'm ignoring the reasons that underlie it, the reasons that they need to do it.
And from the point of view of behaviour, they're more likely to go into the upset behaviour, disturbed behaviour. Yeah.
Or if you stop me tearing my paper, the only other way I might have of helping myself feel safe is thumping you or thumping myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have to look at these behaviours as functional and as something that gives us evidence that will then help us support that child, that person, to mitigate the impact of that sensory processing issue, maybe in a way that's less harmful to themselves.
Well, it has meaning for them. If they're focusing on a certain thing, it actually has meaning for them. And what we have to do is it's part of a language which they are they're talking to themselves. So they are self-stimulating, but it is, because it's a language, we have to get into that language in order to engage with them.
Yes, no, I like that, because that's basically saying that the language, they're using this as a language that in a way they are using to connect with themselves.
That's right.
And if we can think of ways of using that language to connect with them, we are making ourselves and the outside world far more understandable and far more meaningful.
Yes, and in order to do that, we've got to look at, in order to join in the language, we've got to look at the physical feedback they give themselves. So what is it this person is saying to themselves? And when I say saying, I mean what physical stimulus are they rewarding themselves
So what
with?
is the sensory experience they're creating for themselves, which gives them certitude in their life, and how can I tune in with that
and actually give them a bigger one, so they want to come to me for it.
Yes. So I know this is quoting you, so that a solitary self-involved behaviour becomes an opportunity for social interaction.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What is so evident when you look at the films is this extraordinary relief. Thank God there's somebody at last who there's something I can relate to out there.
Yeah.
And all the work we do sees this extraordinary sense. It's the one thing that seems to be absolutely common to any interaction, successful interaction, is this extraordinary relief.
Yes.
And wanting to reach out. Because what they're saying is, it's not that we don't love people, it's not that we don't feel lonely, it's simply what we can't handle is the feedback we're getting from our bodies.
Yeah, and when you present yourself in a way that I can absorb you, what a sense of relief I have.
Yes, enormous.
Yeah. Again, I've heard you refer to it as moments of mutual attention. And I think of...
intimate attention.
Yes.
Yes. That's one gets this extraordinary intimacy. A flow of intimacy.
And I think anybody who, all the intensive interaction practitioners I know, will say that they absolutely recognise that moment. When it happens, it's you have got that connection with somebody. When you've got that connection, then you build on that, but you can't do any of the building until you've made that connection in their language. That's it's a mutual feeling of relief as well, that I'm doing all I can to let this person know that I'm interested in connecting with them, and then when I've managed to do that and they've managed to reach out to me in a way that's meaningful to them, it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. Yes. Yeah.